What's up, guys? It's your boy MMA Striker back with another episode of the Monday MMA News Series. This is episode 6, and a lot has been going on in MMA world as far as UFC 253 and all the crazy stuff going on with Conor McGregor and all that. But we're gonna get into that in this episode. And let's start by like we always do. Start with the recapping of the past event. And UFC 253 was a crazy card, especially the main card. The prelims were okay. There were some pretty good fights on the prelims. Jake Matthews dominated Diego Sanchez, and Diego needs to retire. To be honest, he's taking a lot of damage, and his health needs to be worried about. So I think he should retire. Brad Riddell had a good performance. He lost that first round. Started off kind of slow, but he picked things up in the second and third round. Shane Young got knocked out pretty bad, and Adesanya was pretty mad about it because his opponent missed weight, and Adesanya believes that if a fighter misses weight, they should lose 80 to 90% of their purse, and it will make them finish cutting the weight. I actually agree with that because 30% to some of these fighters isn't like they don't care about it. They can make that back next fight or in a week. So 30% isn't enough. I think it should be 80% or even 90%. So I agree with Izzy on that. But let's recap the fights. Let's start with the title fights. Israel Adesanya TKO'd Paulo Costa in round 2 in a dominant fashion. And this fight pretty much played out how I saw it playing out. Just I thought Izzy was going to TKO him in the 4th round instead of the 2nd, but he did it earlier than I expected him to. And I've been breaking down this fight for almost a year. I started breaking down this fight when Izzy beat Robert Whitaker because I knew these two were going to fight eventually, whether it was next or like a year. I knew these two were going to fight. So after Izzy beat Whitaker, I started breaking down this fight. And I've been saying that Izzy is just a better fighter, the better striker overall, and it showed. But that's besides the point. Let's talk about the fight. Round 1, Izzy was pretty much throwing leg kicks and throwing the jab out there to keep Costa at bay and throwing the leg kicks, tearing his leg apart. Costa only landed like 2 strikes in the whole fight. He landed 2. He landed the body kick, and I think he landed the leg kick. But he didn't land anything to the face of Adesanya. And in the second round, people think that the right hand where he dropped Costa is what started everything. It's not. That's not what started everything. It was the question mark kick that landed on Costa. That hurt him. He was hurt bad. He instantly backed up, and that's when you saw Adesanya start pressuring. Costa didn't really show it that he was hurt. He wasn't like sort of wobbling or anything, but yeah, that question mark kick landed flush and it hurt him, and he started to back up. And at that point, I knew the fight was over. When that question mark kick landed and he instantly backed up, and Izzy was the one pressuring, I knew the fight was going to end soon. He was going to get stopped either that round or the next round. But that was the beginning of the end for the fight. And Adesanya pretty much picked him apart. Costa didn't really do anything in this fight. He tried to fight Adesanya at his own game, which is it's the dumbest thing you can do. You don't not want to fight Adesanya on the outside or in range. He was doing pretty much the same thing Yoel Romero was doing. He was saying, "Come here, let's fight in the middle," taunting and all that. Izzy's not gonna fall for that stuff. He's been fighting his whole life. He's been in so many different atmospheres, whether there's a cage or a ring, boxing, kickboxing, MMA. He's been fighting forever. He's not gonna fall for those taunts and those baits, try to bait you in. He's not gonna fall for that. He's too experienced to fall for that. He's gonna stay in his range and chop your legs down, chop your lead leg down, and then at that point you're gonna have to go for broke at that point. So I don't know why these guys, when they fight Izzy, they try to bait him in and taunt him and say, "Why are you running?" and all that stuff. He's not gonna fall for that stuff. He's not a rookie in the fight game. Even though he's only been in the UFC for about 2 years, but he's been fighting forever. So he's not gonna fall for that stuff. So I don't know what the game plan was for Costa. Costa did make a video after the fight saying that he was hurt or something happened. I don't know what happened. Fighters do this all the time. They make excuses when they lose. But what's next for these two fighters? I think for Izzy, the winner of Robert Whitaker versus Jared Cannonier, most definitely. And for Paulo Costa, I think either the loser of Cannonier and Whitaker or maybe someone like Derek Brunson or Kelvin Gastelum, maybe. But yeah, great performance by Izzy, and I can't wait to see who he fights next. And let's move on to the co-main event. Jan Blachowicz surprisingly knocks out Dominic Reyes in the second round. This came to a shock to a lot of people. Now, before the fight, I did tell people, I said, this fight is going to be a lot closer than people are giving it. I still thought Reyes was going to win a decision. I thought the footwork and the angles were going to be too much for Yan to handle, but Yan proved me wrong. But I did say that this fight is going to be a lot closer than people give it. And people were counting Yan out. People were saying that Yan stands no chance. And they held Reyes as this such a high bar because he had a great fight with Jon Jones and almost beat Jon Jones. Similar to how when Alexander Gustafsson fought Jon Jones in the first fight. When Gus fought Jones in the first fight, he fought him so well and almost won. And then after that, people held Gus at such a high bar, like he was unstoppable. And then he got knocked out by Rumble. People realized styles make fights. And this is happening with Reyes. After Reyes fought Jones, everybody held Reyes at such a high level that like he was unstoppable and nobody could beat him. And it showed the styles makes fights. But I did think Reyes was going to win. I was kind of shocked at how dominant Yan looked in there. Those body kicks did a lot of damage. And Reyes didn't really, when Yan blitzed him, Reyes didn't really counter. He just kind of shelled up and backed away. And you can't really do that when you're fighting a guy like Yan because eventually he's going to break the block. He's going to break the guard and land that right hand, the check right hand. And he did. And Reyes was hurt bad. And he got knocked out. And there was a few people who I was watching the fights with saying that was an early stoppage. It wasn't an early stoppage. I mean, Reyes' nose was broken. He was a battered fighter. He was beat. And it was a good stoppage. So Yan looked great in there. Reyes, I still think Reyes has a promising future. I'm not gonna say he's done right now. He could still be a champion, but he's still very young in the MMA game, in the fight game. He's still very young. He only has 14 fights, similar with Paulo Costa. Him and Paulo Costa people don't realize they're still very young in this sport. They only have 13 to 14 professional fights. When they're fighting guys like Yan, who has like 30 professional fights, and Izzy, who's been fighting in multiple combat sports. Experience is a real thing in MMA, and it shows in some fights. Experience matters. If you're not experienced in whether it's 5-round fights or championship fights, it's going to show eventually. So that's my thoughts on the co-main event. And who they should fight next. For Yan, he should defend his belt against the winner of Thiago Santos versus Glover Teixeira, if that fight ever happens, because it's been pulled twice. But if that fight happens, whoever wins that fight should fight Yan for the belt. And for Reyes, I think he should fight the loser of Glover and Santos, or maybe even Alexander Rakic. But let's move on to the next topic, which is the whole Conor McGregor stuff that went on last Friday, I believe. Yeah, last Friday, where Conor leaked the DMs with Dana White and about him wanting to fight and Dana not letting him fight. And it was pretty crazy. Now, one thing I was confused about was he said he wanted to fight 4 times this year. This was before the pandemic. This was in February when the DMs happened. He said he wanted to fight in May in in Los Angeles. He wanted to fight in August in Dublin, and then fight at the end of the year against Khabib. So before the May, this is before the May when Dana shut down LA in May. He said he wanted to fight in May. And then then Dana said we don't have any shows in May. The earliest we have is July for International Fight Week against Gaethje. And then he said July is too far. But then after May was shut down, after Conor realized May wasn't happening, he said, okay, let's do August against Diego Sanchez, which didn't really make sense. How come July was too far at first, but then when May goes away, now you want to do August against Diego Sanchez? I don't know if because it was the opponent or he wanted to fight in Dublin. I don't really know what that was, but Conor wanted to fight 4 times a year, and first he wanted it in May in Los Angeles. That didn't happen. Then he wanted Dublin against Diego Sanchez. Dana White said, if we make that fight with Diego Sanchez, we should lose our promoter's license, which is pretty funny. Which that fight does not make any sense. I don't know why Conor wants that fight, but that fight makes no sense. So then after all that happened, then Conor said he's gonna fight Manny Pacquiao. He's gonna box against Manny Pacquiao in the Middle East. And Conor's I think manager Audi Attar, I think that's his name. Yeah, he manages both Pacquiao and Conor. I didn't think this. He said they're in serious talks about it. So and then on Monday, Conor asked Dustin Poirier that he's going to do a charity MMA bout out the UFC on the same day that Usman and Burns are going to fight. So it's been crazy. All this Conor McGregor has been still in the show all last week and this week, and it's been pretty crazy. My thoughts on it: I do not want to see him fight Diego Sanchez or Manny Pacquiao, to be honest. The Manny Pacquiao fight does nothing for me. I mean, I will still watch it, of course, because I love boxing and I love combat sports. I love Conor McGregor and Manny Pacquiao, so of course I would watch it. But Like, it doesn't get me excited that much. I want to see Conor in MMA fighting the top lightweights. I want to see him fighting the Tony Fergusons, the Dustin Poiriers, the Gaethjes. The even I would rather see a Khabib fight than a Pacquiao, to be honest. And or even against the guys like Jorge Masvidal or somebody. I just want to see Conor fighting top guys of MMA in the UFC. That's what I want to see. Now, the Pacquiao fight, I don't know if it's going to actually happen. It might not actually happen. Conor may come back to the UFC. Him and Dana White may work things out, and he may get a fight in the UFC. I hope that happens. I hope they work things out and get him back in the octagon. But I don't know. We're going to see how it plays out, and it's been pretty crazy. But moving on to the next topic, we're going to preview this weekend's Fight Night card, which is Holly Holm versus Irene Aldana. And I like the fight personally. I know a lot of people don't like the women headlining cards, but this particular fight I like a lot. Especially, I'm looking to see how Aldana performs against top-ranked bantamweights, because she, of course, in her last fight, she knocked out Caitlin Vieira, who was ranked 2 at the time. She knocked her out cold, and now she's fighting Holly Holm. And this is going to be the toughest fight of her career. I can't wait to see how she handles it. And if she wins, she's most likely going to be the #1 contender in that division against Amanda Nunes, which is going to be very interesting. So I can't wait to see that. GDR is back against Juliana Pena. I love watching Jermaine Duranamy fight. I love her striking style. That's going to be fun to watch. Carlos Condit is on the prelims, which is kind of crazy if you think about it, especially if you've been watching this sport like all the way back to when Carlos Condit was the man. He was the top-ranked welterweight. It's crazy to see how much he fell off in this point. He went from the interim champion, fighting George St. Pierre, Nick Diaz, being ranked very high in the welterweight division, and then not even be able to win a fight and being like prelims of a Fight Night card. It's pretty crazy, but he's on the card this weekend. And Charles Jourdain is on the card this weekend. He's a very exciting fighter. He fought Andre Fili in his last fight, and he's a pretty entertaining fighter, so I can't wait to see him fight this weekend. So overall, the card is not bad. I mean, it's not the best on paper, but it's not bad. It's just, there's a few fighters and a few fights I'm looking forward to. And Jorgen De Castro's on the co-main event, so I mean, it's some pretty good fights on this card in my opinion. But let's get into the questions. We have 2 questions from the same person, and it is from @Tyrone $. So shout out to him for these 2 questions. And we're gonna start with the first question. And he says, "Where do you put Izzy pound for pound right now?" Now I put Izzy pound for pound. I'll put him at 4. I'll give my top 5 really quickly. Number 1, I have Khabib. Number 2, I have John Jones. Number 3, I have Stipe. 4, Izzy, and 5, Usman. Now Usman and Izzy, I was debating where I should put them to, whether I should put Usman above Izzy or Izzy above Usman. Now I was comparing their last few fights. I was saying is beating Tyron Woodley, Colby Covington, and Jorge Masvidal better than beating Whitaker, Romero, and Costa. And the reason why I put Izzy above Usman is because Izzy has finished most of his title fights, especially he's finished 2 of his last 3 title fights in less than 3 rounds, and he's barely getting hit. I mean, and Usman's barely getting hit as well. The only fight he got hit that much was the Covington fight, but other than the Covington fight, Usman's been very dominant as well. But I gave Izzy the advantage over Usman because he has knocked out most of his competition, especially for fighting for a belt. He has knocked out Whitaker. He has knocked out Costa in less than 3 rounds. So that's the reason I put Izzy over him. But that's my top 5 pound for pound right now. And the second question is thoughts on the fighter pay from UFC 253. So let's see. Izzy got paid $690,000. That's a nice amount. Yan got paid $430,000, and both Costa and Reyes got paid $380K. So the fighter pay doesn't look bad. It doesn't look bad. The problem with fighter pay is it's not with the champions or the big stars. The big stars, they get paid a pretty good amount in my opinion. It's not them that I'm worried about. I'm worried about the guys who are lower ranked or not ranked at all. The up and coming prospects who get paid like $15,000 to show, $15,000 to win. Those are the fighters I think should be paid more. The champions and the champions. Some champions do deserve more pay, but like the big stars, like the Conor McGregors and the Masvidals and the John Jones, they get paid pretty nicely. I don't think that's where the fighter pay should be raised. I think it's where the prospects and the lower ranked contenders and the guys who try to make a name for themselves, they're the guys who need to get paid more in my opinion. But that's my thought on that. And that's going to wrap up this episode, guys. And make sure to comment down below your thoughts on UFC 253 or any upcoming fights. and what's been going on with Conor McGregor. And make sure to like and subscribe if you want to see more videos from me. And let me know. I want to do a fight breakdown very soon. I haven't done a fight breakdown in a while. So let me know what fight you guys want to see me break down, and I will break it down. Maybe tomorrow or Friday. But other than that, hope you guys have a good day, and I'll see you guys in the next video.